Emma never belonged in her sister's world of designer clothes, fine dining, and carefully staged perfection. She was the quiet one, working double shifts at a small cafe, barely making rent, and wearing hand-me-down dresses. But when her glamorous sister, Clara, decided she didn't feel like going on a blind date arranged by their aunt, she simply said, "Emma, go instead. Just pretend you're me. He'll never know." Emma wanted to refuse. The idea of lying made her stomach twist. But one look at Clara's determined eyes and her father's medical bill sitting unpaid on the kitchen table made her swallow her protests. "It's just dinner," Clara insisted. Smile, nod, and leave. That's how Emma found herself standing nervously outside a five-star restaurant she would never be able to afford on her own. The city lights glowed, and her heart pounded in her chest. She wore Clara's old dress, it fit poorly, but it was the best she had. Inside, she expected arrogance, coldness, maybe even mockery. Instead, a tall man rose from the table with kind, steady eyes, and a smile that reached all the way to his little daughter, who sat beside him, swinging her legs. "You must be Clara," the man said warmly. "I'm Ethan. And this is Lily." Emma froze. A child? A single dad CEO? This was no ordinary blind date. And judging by the way Ethan's gaze lingered, it seemed leaving might not be an option at all. Emma's breath caught as Lily leaned across the table, her big brown eyes curious. "Are you my new mommy?" the little girl asked innocently, making Emma nearly choke on air. Ethan chuckled softly, clearly used to his daughter's bluntness. "Lily," he said gently, "we're just having dinner tonight." But his gaze lingered on Emma, studying her in a way that made her squirm. He was nothing like she had imagined, a CEO, yes, but not the cold, untouchable type. His presence was calm, grounded, almost disarming. Emma forced a smile. "It's nice to meet you both," she whispered, her voice low, betraying her nerves. She tried to play the part of her sister, confident, polished, charming, but every attempt felt awkward, like wearing shoes 2 sizes too big. Dinner was served, and while Ethan and Lily chatted easily, Emma found herself laughing at the little girl's stories about her puppy, her school, and her love for pancakes. For a brief moment, Emma forgot she was pretending. Then Ethan leaned forward. "You're not quite what I expected," he admitted, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "And I mean that in the best way." Her fork nearly slipped from her hand. Did he know? Was her disguise unraveling already? The thought terrified her, but even more frightening was the warmth she felt when Lily reached out and held her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Emma told herself she'd leave right after dinner. But deep down, something inside whispered, maybe, just maybe, she wasn't meant to walk away tonight. Emma excused herself to the restroom, gripping the edge of the marble sink as she stared at her reflection. "What am I doing?" she thought. "This isn't my world. I don't belong here." She had promised Clara she'd smile, eat, and leave. Simple. But Ethan's kindness and Lily's innocent trust were stirring feelings Emma couldn't control. They weren't supposed to feel real. When she returned to the table, Ethan was on the phone. His tone was sharp, commanding, a glimpse of the CEO people whispered about. But the moment his eyes landed on her, his expression softened, as though she anchored him back to calm. "I'm sorry," he said, sliding his phone away. "Business never really ends." Emma nodded, unsure what to say. That's when Lily tugged on her sleeve. "Will you come to my school play tomorrow?" "Daddy promised, but he's always busy." "Please?" Emma froze. Her heart ached at the little girl's pleading eyes. She opened her mouth to gently decline, but Ethan surprised her. "I'd actually like that," he said, smiling faintly. Then, studying her carefully, he added, "but only if you want to." Her pulse quickened. This wasn't part of the plan. She was supposed to leave tonight and never see them again. Yet something about Lily's hope, and Ethan's quiet sincerity, made it impossible to refuse. "All right," she whispered, almost against her own will. As they stood to leave, Ethan reached for her coat. His touch lingered just a moment longer than it should have. I don't know why, he said softly, but I feel like I've been waiting to meet you for a long time. Emma's chest tightened. The lie between them was growing heavier by the second. The next evening, Emma found herself sitting in a small school auditorium, surrounded by parents with polished lives. She felt out of place in her simple dress, but Lily's radiant smile as she spotted her from the stage made Emma forget her worries. Ethan sat beside her, his arm resting casually along the back of her chair. She's been talking about you all day, he murmured. You have no idea what that means to me. Emma's throat tightened. She wasn't the woman he thought she was. And yet, she wanted to be. When the play ended, Lily ran straight into her arms. You came, she squealed, hugging Emma tightly. Ethan's eyes softened as he watched them, and for a fleeting second, Emma felt like she belonged in their little world. But reality struck hard when Clara called later that night. Well? Clara's sharp voice demanded. Did you leave him dazzled? Tell me he's rich, Aunt said he's loaded. Emma's stomach twisted. Clara, he's kind. And he has a daughter. This isn't a game. Clara scoffed. Don't get attached, Emma. You're not even supposed to be there. He was meant for me. Emma's hand trembled as she ended the call. For the first time, she questioned whether stepping in for her sister had been a mistake too big to undo. The next day, Ethan invited her to lunch at his office. Nervous, Emma walked into his sleek corporate world. As she admired the city skyline from his glass window, he studied her intently. Emma, he said slowly, his voice steady, there's something you're not telling me, is there? Her heart dropped. The truth was clawing its way out, whether she was ready or not. Emma's chest tightened as Ethan's steady gaze pierced through her. His tone wasn't accusing, just searching, almost hopeful. She swallowed hard. Ethan. I wasn't supposed to be here. The truth is. I'm not Clara. I'm her sister. The words spilled out, and with them, all the shame she had been carrying. Clara didn't want to come that night. She told me to go in her place. I never meant to deceive you. I thought it would be just one dinner, but then I met you. And Lily. Her voice broke. I understand if you never want to see me again. Silence stretched in the room, heavy and unbearable. Emma braced herself for anger, disappointment, anything. But instead, Ethan leaned back slowly, his expression unreadable. Then, to her shock, he smiled. You think I didn't notice? He said softly. From the moment you walked in, I knew you weren't the woman I was supposed to meet. But I didn't care. You were real. Genuine. The way you listened to Lily, the way you looked at me. That's what mattered. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. But I'm just. Don't say just, Ethan interrupted gently. You're exactly who Lily and I have been waiting for. At that moment, Lily burst through the office door, holding a crayon drawing of the three of them, hand in hand, smiling under a sun. Look, Daddy. Look, Emma. Emma's tears spilled freely as Ethan wrapped his arm around her. For the first time in years, she felt chosen, not for her beauty, her status, or anyone else's expectations, but simply for who she was. And in that moment, Emma realized, sometimes the wrong beginning leads to the right forever.